What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Odd Shopper channel, and happy Elite 8. That's what we're here to talk about today, the first half of the Elite 8, Saturday, March the 30th. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. And we are brought to you by Bet365. They have a limited time deal for those of you living in Kentucky, Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia, Iowa, Colorado, Louisiana, Indiana, Arizona, and North Carolina. What you'll do is click the link in the video description below, make your first deposit of at least $10, turn that around at least a $5 wager on any team, total, market, whatever you want. Whether it wins or loses, you are getting $150 in the form of bonus bets. You must be 21 or older to play, 18 in Kentucky. If you or somebody who knows a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. But this is an extra $150 in your bankroll you can dedicate to hoops, NHL, MLB, whatever you want. Take advantage of this, only available for a limited time. Awesome games on deck. Had a really fun Sweet 16. The second half of those have not tipped yet, but we have results from the first day Sweet 16 matchups, and we are recording about the teams that won and now made it to the Elite 8, which brings us to our first game. It's Illinois taking on UConn. So quick recap. Illinois beats Iowa State, a game we had, a game we covered, and UConn runs San Diego State out of the gym. We talked about that game at length. I showed value on San Diego State, was very hesitant until the line continued to move to UConn. Eventually, I bought in at a San Diego State plus 12. Unfortunately, they needed plus 30 to get it done, but here we are. UConn rolls through. So to this point, UConn has been on an absolute warpath. They have not faced an offense quite like Illinois at this point, which presents a unique stylistic challenge. Illinois has played, I think, a little more competitive games than UConn to this point, just a slightly better competition. Certainly, Iowa State would by far be the best team UConn has faced in this tournament. But kind of a meta that is going on in the tournament so far is a lot of these teams that are built defensively are dropping games to some of the teams that are juggernauts on offense. We saw Alabama get a win, more on that later. And we saw Illinois get a win over a defensively sound Iowa State. So that sets up a unique matchup here. And the first thing, you're going to need to score if you're going to play UConn. This team has so many bodies and so many ways to beat you. They have Klingon on the inside, so you present unique height mismatches if you're UConn. You have elite guards, and they come in different shapes and sizes. You have the elite shooters like Cam Spencer and even Alex Caravan in the front court. They're shooting 44 and 39% respectively from three. But it's not just shooters. Then you have elite creators off the bounce. Tristan Newton playing the point guard position. He's 6'5". It's going to present a unique matchup for Illinois because Illinois no longer has this size advantage at the guard position with Tristan Newton. And it's not just him. Steph Castle, their freshman, he's going to get drafted this year. He's 6'6". And he's not the best shooter, just 27% from three, but probably the best athlete on the team. And he's another elite player at creation, shot creation, just on his own. This doesn't even include players like Hassan Diarra, who's 36% from three off the bench, or Samson Johnson, depth in the front court, who likely starts on about 300 teams, probably more, in the country if he's on a different team. So just an unbelievably deep UConn roster. Even if one of these guys has a bad game or two, they're very hard to beat, and they're going to score. Lucky for Illinois, they do have some elite scorers, and they match up fairly well against UConn. The one thing they're going to have to do, which is their biggest disadvantage, is probably get Klingon in foul trouble. That's happened at times. Klingon actually has 3.6 fouls per 40 minutes, so he's definitely not a foul risk most of the time, but he's not clean either. He does get in foul trouble, but he draws them himself. The unique part about Illinois is you have a movement big, an athletic big in Coleman Hawkins, who's good at shooting threes. He's at 38%. He can definitely pull you away from the basket if you're Klingon and potentially get you in foul trouble. And it's not like he's only shot a couple threes. This is on 153 three-point attempts. Coleman Hawkins, for everything that he does shooting the ball, he's actually very good on defense too. He's ranked nationally in block rate and steal rate. So he's an awesome defender, which creates a unique challenge for UConn on the interior. And we're just coming off a game where Klingon didn't exactly have his best performance offensively. But from there, you also have elite guards and athletic guards and big guards. So you stand up against Castle and Tristan Newton. Terrence Shannon is 6'6". Marcus Domask is also 6'6". Then you have players like Ty Rogers, also 6'6", Gary at 6'8", Luke Goody. He's a huge liability on defense, but he's an awesome three-point shooter. He's 6'7". And Illinois does have decent shooters. We mentioned Hawkins already. Gary, he's also at 38% from three. Goody's at 40%. Terrence Shannon is about 36.5%, which is solid. But the best part about Shannon and Domas here, these are awesome shot creators, and they're very good at finding their shots. And we know Illinois can score. The problem is on defense. Can they even hold up remotely close against UConn? And I'm not sure the answer is yes. I personally don't think it is. This team is ranked outside the top 100 in total defense, and they have a lot of deficiencies. It's not just that, but they're 207th defending the three. We already mentioned UConn, excellent shooting the ball. They're 51st in three-point percentage. I was a little surprised Illinois is pretty good at defending the interior. They're 28th. So if you can get some better defensive play out of Terry, Shannon, Domask, and whoever they play at their three-guard position as a rotation, that would go a long way in them covering the 8.5. Illinois is also going to try to play with pace, but the reason I like the 8.5 in this spot is this is a fast team that's the number 2 offense in the country. Just matchup-wise, this is going to be electric. Number 2 versus number 1 offense. Unlike San Diego State, unlike the previous matchups UConn's had in the tournament, and they've buried opponents because they can't score, Illinois can't. So even if UConn goes on a run and they end up winning this game or leading this game at some point by like 15 points, Illinois is always live to crawl their way back because they're so good offensively. And they also, speaking to the fouls, they draw a ton of them. So they are a team that maybe could actually execute the recipe to get Klingon in foul trouble and make this a game. So for that reason, I like an 8.5. I already took it. I don't think you have to. If you're waiting till Saturday, I think this would move in UConn's direction before Illinois. So there's a chance that maybe you see a 9 out there, something like that. It's not available in the market currently. And I'm fine with the 8.5, but just some, I guess, advice on timing. I think it might be good if you wait, but we'll see. Next up, let's go to our second game. Clemson taking on Alabama. Fun one here. Two teams that were both underdogs in their Sweet 16 matchups. Clemson has now been on a war path themselves. It's been pretty close, some of their games, but so far they beat New Mexico, Baylor, and Arizona. Those are 3 elite wins for the Clemson Tigers, a team that hasn't been healthy fully all season, but now they've gotten back to full strength, and it's shown, I think, one of the more underrated teams in the tournament. And also one that's balanced, 23rd on offense, 34th on defense, 52nd in rebounding with good height. Meanwhile, Alabama's definitely imbalanced. They have a good resume. They got here by beating kind of a poor man's version of themselves in Charleston. Then they beat Grand Canyon, who's composed differently, but still a mid-major. And we saw them knock off North Carolina. Their most impressive win in the tournament by far. But, man, North Carolina had some real chances to win that game and did some funky stuff in the game against Alabama, too. Down the stretch, you saw Baycott miss a dunk that would have put them up big. You saw Jalen Withers taking a three-point shot late in the game where he was wide open, but there's also a reason you're wide open, Jalen Withers. I don't know what to tell you. Some of the coaching for North Carolina was also concerning. They basically were playing Paxton Wojcik over Elliot Cadeau, playing Withers over some other front court players. I mean, Paxton Wojcik has played in like 15 games this year. There's been like half the season where he hasn't even seen a minute. Why is he getting 10 minutes against Alabama? Anyway, that doesn't have anything to do with this game. All I'm saying is Clemson was ahead of Arizona basically the whole time. Bama had chances to lose, but they were able to get it done. As far as this game goes, Bama 4th on offense, 103 on defense, 43 in rebounding. They do have risks. Basically, the biggest matchup we were talking about with North Carolina, hoping they would exploit against Bama, was the front court. Bama is 200th at interior defense, despite ranking 9th in effective height. They just got a bunch of young players and mid-major transfers that occupy the front court. And lucky for them, they got a huge game out of Grant Nelson against North Carolina. You have the same matchup deficiencies here that North Carolina should have been able to exploit, and SEC teams exploited all year, the front court. Clemson is 34th in effective height. They've got 3 dudes with elite size, led by P.J. Hall, who, I mean, P.J. Hall, for as tall as he is, shoots the 3 very well. The guy's 6'10". He shot 161 threes this year, and we saw him have a nice game in the Sweet 16, but it's not just him. Ian Shiflin's 6'8", and somehow Ian Shiflin is shooting 49% from 3. It's on 47 attempts, so not the biggest sample, but that's still an elite three-point percentage. You have Chauncey Wiggins. He's 6'10", shooting 35% from 3. You have Jack Clark back healthy. He's 6'10". He's not really a three-point shooter, but the point I'm making here is you have size. Off the bench, RJ Godfrey is going to play a decent amount of minutes. He's 6'8". This team goes about 5 deep on the interior with a lot of flexibility because they have shooters at these positions too. So you can draw these big Alabama stiffs like Nick Pringle, Sam Walters, Muhammad Wagi away from the basket and potentially get them in foul trouble, which has been a problem for Alabama bigs going back years now. And it's the same case this year. Alabama is 304th in fouls committed. So this front court matchup is a big disadvantage for Bama and an advantage Clemson's direction. Outside of that, with Alabama, the reason largely that they were able to hang in the game against North Carolina, aside from North Carolina not exploiting their advantages and playing bench players over starters, Alabama shot really well from three. I believe they were 42% as a team. This team is 29th in the country in three-point percentage. Clemson is 126 in three-point defense. This is not the biggest strength for them. And their weakest defenders happen to be their guards like Joe Girard and Hunter. These are players that are not elite defenders. Most of their best defensive numbers come from the interior with Jack Clark and PJ Hall and the rim protection they provide. But you're still reliant a lot on threes, and it's not like Clemson's defense is bad. Their 126 is still above average. It's not bad. It's just not really that good either. As far as some of the other metrics, rebounding's pretty close between these teams. I like the way Clemson is composed compared to Bama. Bama relies on the offensive glass. They're 26th there, but 225th in defensive rebounding. Clemson's the exact opposite. They don't really allow offensive boards. They're 50th in the country at defensive rebounding. The turnover margin in this game favors Clemson. They have better guard play and turn the ball over less, as does the foul margin. Clemson very rarely in foul trouble. Bama constantly in foul trouble. And I didn't even mention the elephant in the room. These teams played this year in the middle of non-conference. Clemson won at Alabama 85-77. That was also a game where Jack Clark was not healthy. He only played 12 minutes due to injury he was dealing with at the time. Whereas you had an Alabama team that was fully healthy at the time. I will say they did shoot the ball pretty poorly in that game. You got a 31% shooting performance out of Alabama from three. If that happens again, Clemson should run away with this. Clemson on the other side shot 52% from three, so that went a long way into winning the game. But they've already done it on Alabama's home floor, and of course, this is going to be at a neutral venue. So finding a 3.5, I think, is important here. You want every single point. I'm going to show you Odd Shopper to prove that we've got a 3.5 still available in the market that you can take. So pulling up the odds screen right now, this is just live odds. You can sort this by state. You can sort it by sportsbook. It's highly customizable. But you see Clemson here, plus 3.5 is still available. The sportsbook you can find this is Bet Rivers. It's juiced a little bit to minus 113. There's also some threes available in the market too, but you can easily find this plus 3.5 with the line moving in Clemson's direction. This is among many features we have with Odd Shopper. There's so many right now. The site uses a market-based approach, which basically scans all the sports books, finds the sharp ones, then points out odds that maybe you're lagging behind and shows you the best place to take these. This tool has a 5.5% ROI since we launched all the new tools, and there's all kinds of other tools as well. We have an odds boost calculator because a lot of these sports books are offering odds boost on specific games. Now you can put those in, check if it's actually profitable for you. There's arbitrage betting calculators. There's parlay builders. Everything you could possibly want. And all that is now combined with our Discord. Myself, Ben, we're all in there talking about how we use these tools and what we're taking. It's interactive, so ask any of the questions you want. But that'll sum up the two games, Clemson plus 3.5 and Illinois plus 8.5, living dangerously with the Illini. Also, I guess I didn't mention pricing for Odd Shopper. It's $14.95 for a week, $49.95 for a month, no long-term commitments. The link is below. Check those out. But yeah, that'll sum up the video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you'd like to reach out on Twitter, I'm at Matt_Gajewski. DMs are open. Until next time, good luck, everyone. We'll see you later.